So for me, everything starts with connection. And for me, there are 4 main connections that you have to have as an entrepreneur. So one is a connection to God, spirit, universe, whatever your belief system is. Connection to themselves, like where am I in this? Connection to a sense of identity that is so rooted in a fundamental truth of like, this is who I am. And knowing that I amness is enough. And then a connection to your significant other, a spouse, a community around you, in a close community that can see you as who you are and who you seek to become and hold space for that. And then from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it's connection with your customers and understanding your customers often more than your customers even understand themselves.
This is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgenson.
Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. I'm your host, Tyler Jorgenson. And every once in a while, I get to have a guest on who I've known for a long time, have seen in the internet marketing corridors, if you will, but I somehow didn't get this wonderful guest on my show yet. And so I'm so excited that the time has finally come, that I get to share with my audience and with the world, the amazing human that is Liz Benny. I'm so excited to have you here, Liz. Welcome out to the show.
Dude, I'm so excited. And by the way, for anyone listening, yes, I have a New Zealand accent, and no, I am not Australian. Let's start with that.
Very good distinction. And so some people know the difference between the two accents, but most Americans probably don't. So good to know. And thank you for, videoing in all the way from New Zealand. The very first question I like to ask, and I've had the joy of following your journey for the last decade, which I just realized as I was saying it is quite a long time. But when was that moment in your life where you first realized that you were an entrepreneur?
Oh my little old Lord. I can literally pinpoint the exact moment where I started to have all these big entrepreneurial thoughts. I remember when I was mowing the lawn between rows of roses. So what I mean by that is my dad was an international rose breeder, and we used to have like 60,000 roses in a paddock or a field outside our house. And in between that was the lawn, right? And I remember like pushing this lawnmower in between the rows of roses, aka weeding in between the roses. And I remember it had gotten really long grass, become really long grass, and it all got like all clogged up, right? And then I remember the lawnmower kind of putting out. And yes, it was off, and I turned it over, and I had to like put my hand in under there, and I was like hauling all of this green stuff out of underneath the lawnmower. And I remember looking at this stuff going, oh my gosh, like what could I make from this and sell? And then I started to imagine like facials, and I was like, oh, and then I imagined the mask with Jim Carrey. I'm like, that probably wouldn't work. So I kind of quickly regressed out of that idea and go, okay, maybe people will drink this. I was like, anyway. And I was probably 13, 14 years old at that point in time. But I always remember, like I grew up on a farm, and I remember thinking, there's got to be something, I want to change the world. So I had these big feelings about wanting to be a person that changed the world. And then that was always kind of through entrepreneurialism. So yeah, super young.
Early on. What would you say? So, ideas of turning mulch into masks, but what was that first real entrepreneurial or first business venture you attempted?
So the first, I think it's the same for a lot of us that jumped into online marketing. I started in MLM, and So sorry for the MLMers listening right now who are so into your MLM. That's cool. You do you. But for me, it was more of a high ticket sales side of that. So it was actually a personal development company, and so that was my first thing, and I learned some big things about business in that opportunity for sure.
Yeah, MLMs are so unique, and I don't want to go into the negative side of that because there are a lot of positives. Mm-hmm. And one of them is what people learn, right? If you're the right personality, what you will extract in learning from an experience like that is huge. What was one of your biggest lessons that you learned during that experience, and how did it impact you in your next steps?
Wow. Okay. So firstly, to be savvy and to know the rules before you start playing the game. So for me, what that actually meant was I ended up in my first year of sales, I actually ended up doing around, I think, $70-ish thousand that got passed up to the person that I actually was introduced to the company. And it was like pass two up type thing. And I was on a really slow team. So a lot of other people were getting like, qualified out and all this sort of stuff for the big commissions themselves. And I effectively made this dude so much money. So, I mean, and that was great. I made myself 13,000 and made him 70. Great deal for him because, whatever. But for me, the lessons though are resilience, understanding the rules before you go in and asking better questions, because I think a lot of the time, and we just don't, we get swept up in the dream and then we don't go, hold up for a second. What's the reality of what's happening here? And is this a reality? Is this a problem I want to buy? And this is a conversation I was having with my wife yesterday. Is like every single time you get into a business, you are investing in the problems that business requires you to sell or requires you to problem solve through. And for me, it's a big question now. It's like, well, do I want to jump into another investment property? No, that's not a problem I want to buy right now. I want to go over here and solve other problems, because business is ultimately about solving problems.
Yeah, and it's a good way of looking at it. Is it a problem you want to buy? And I really love the idea of knowing the rules before you play. So you went from one idea into you did an MLM. When I first learned about you was about a decade ago, and now you were more in the internet marketing side. You were starting to learn. You had your some offers and some things you were selling online. How did you make that pivot from MLM and other things into the online space? How did that find you?
Such a beautiful question. So went from MLM, learned tons of skills in MLM, and then that one eventually faltered from a legal standpoint, and super grateful for that. Jumped into a different one, which was all about helping people and serving people. And I think the name of the company was Give Op, or something along those, like a giving opportunity. The more money you make, the more trees you plant and all that sort of stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's so aligned. Let me help make money and save the world. So I thought that this was the most amazing thing in the world. That one faltered as well. But in that particular business, there was a guy that he was amazing. His name is Eric. I won't give away his surname because the guy turned out to be a bit of a, he owned a porn site and all this sort of stuff. And I went into business with him. Should have asked more questions. I went into business with this guy, and we were going to, again, change the world. And we started this company called togetherbehappy.com. And he said, look, all you need to do is just go out there and be all of you, and you'll be able to make so much money because people will be so magnetized by all of your energy. And we'll build a website where we sell advertising on the website. So literally that was the next step. And I was like, oh yay, I get to be all of me. And I was writing blogs about happiness and about gratitude and about all these things. And it was incredible, right? It was all based on the science of happiness. But the guy turned out to be a blimmin' scoundrel. His porn site got shut down by Google. He didn't have any money to pay his rent. I eventually was so invested into the business that I was like, I'll pay your rent so that we can keep going in business together. Oh my gosh, the things you learn. Anyway, long story short, from that particular opportunity, this is actually where I started to make all, like, the millions and millions and millions that I've made can track back to this particular opportunity, because I learned website, I learned SEO, I learned social media to the nth degree. And then what I did was I basically took those skills, got a job, was making $45,000 per annum, hated it, horrible. And then from then I was like, you know what, I can go out on my own. So that's when my social media management company started. I turned over $25,000 in my first year. Woo, not very much. And I vowed and declared that that would never happen again. Like, I would never put in that much work for so little. And that was profit. And then the next year I turned over $131,000 in profit or something along those lines. And from there is where I started going, I want to change the world. I can teach people how to do what I've done. I've got all the systems. I've got all the resources. And that's when I hired Russell Brunson, who we both know. And he was the coach that walked alongside me to assist me in making the first $1 million online, selling that program.
That's really cool. The people who found Russell early, right, before all the webinars and before ClickFunnels went big, always curious. Like, how'd you find them?
Oh, this is and Russell would laugh. If Russell was listening to this podcast right now or this interview right now, he would laugh because he knows what I'm about to say. So I saw this little guy about 15 years old, and Russell was older than 15, but he looks about 15 years old. And I kept seeing this Facebook ad, and he was showing this thing like, hey, he's like, this little dude selling me this 101 or 108 split testing secrets. And it's all I needed to be able to, make all the money in the world type promise, and understand exactly what to do on my website to be able to, tweak and change. And I think I still have that exact catalog. And it got delivered to me over here in New Zealand. And I kept seeing his little ad, and I was like, what is this 15-year-old going to teach me about marketing? That's what my brain was doing. And then eventually I got so annoyed with the ad that I was like, fine, if I just get this product and buy this product, hopefully I won't see this ad anymore. And that's why I did it. And it was like a free plus shipping offer. And when it arrived over in New Zealand, there was a little insert in there, and I looked at the insert, and it was selling his coaching. And I remember saying to my wife, Christy, if this coaching is $25,000, I'm not doing it. And then I got on a call with his sales team, and I was like, gosh dang it, lucky I've got $25,000 to send. And the rest is history.
And then you became for a while the poster child of Inner Circle, and just like how amazing it can be. I think you spoke actually at the very first Funnel Hacking Live, right? Or second. I know you spoke at the second one, but you attended the first one.
Well, I was flown over as the call girl for the first not the call girl. I was Russell was like, hey Liz, you're having obviously a lot of success with webinars. I was the first person in the world that he taught the perfect webinar to. So that's kind of cool. And then he actually asked me to come over to the very first Funnel Hacking Live. So I was up on stage, but I didn't speak at that one.
Gotcha. There is a common thread that whether you intend to or not, it comes out in everything you're saying. And it's about happiness. It's about who you are. It's about your identity and about how you want to make the world a better place. Throughout all these things and throughout your life, there's been ups and downs, right? Mm-hmm. Some of them you've shared, some of them I'm sure are just kept internally. But what has been your guiding light as you've gone through the challenges of entrepreneurship and life?
Oh my gosh. What a beautiful question. And there are so many different ways that I can answer that, but I'm going to answer it with the truth that is coming through like thick and fast right now. I'm deeply intuitive, by the way. So I'm just going to be like raw, real, and honest with you right now. And that's actually part of it, is that I don't want to hide the truth. I want to be absolutely all of me. And ever since, like, I've gone through chronic depression and I've had suicidal ideations, I've been through it all. And I've asked myself the big question. The questions like, why am I here? What is the purpose of this human experience? And for me, it's just about helping people live all of their experience of life in integrity with their truth, whatever that is for them. And for me, the word Kapow, like it's a pathway. So for me, like the guiding force for me is Kapow, which sounds almost like I worship Kapow like a god, and it's not that in any way, shape, or form. I'm Liz Benny, the Queen of Kapow. The word Kapow is something that came through me in the early days, and I kept saying Kapow, and it kept like lighting people's faces up. And I noticed that when I said Kapow, there was like an energetic shift in them, and it was incredible and amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, cool. That is something cool. And it was actually with Russell, we came up with the concept of like Liz Benny, the Queen of Kapow. And then Kapow became a pathway to wealth, because a lot of people want to live a truly deeply wealthy life, and they don't know what it means to them. Like, that's the problem. They think that, they buy the Porsche, they buy the thing, and that then they're going to be happy. And I'm like, no, hold up. Wealth is a feeling of freedom within your spirit and your soul that you get to experience all of life in the way that you feel called to experience it. And if that's having a crap ton of money and being able to go on holiday all the time, cool, awesome. If that is having a deeply intimate relationship with your significant other where you get lost in that marriage and that relationship, yay, cool. Like, wealth is a thing that I help people define in a very sacred space for them. And then through connection, which is the K, and I know it's spelled incorrectly. Sometimes in life we have to break rules that don't work for us. Connection, alignment, living with purpose, and taking ownership gets you the wealth that you want and desire. And that's what I'm here to do, is help people create wealthy lives on their terms and have the identity in alignment with that.
Once you got started, right? So there was the pre-Kapow Liz Benny, right? But once you found that Kapow, and that was like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm going to build. This is who I am. This is my mission. What was one of the biggest challenges that you faced, and how'd you overcome it?
Such a brilliant question. One of the biggest challenges that I faced was feeling like I needed to get external validation for what I knew internally to be the truth. And if you want me to go more into that, I totally will. Like, I've got hundreds of examples, but that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. I think that's any entrepreneur, or really any human that is trying to grow is going to face that moment of, am I doing it for me because it's what's right for me? Or am I doing it because do I need other people's approval, right? And whether it's the validation, or whether it's just the confirmation, or the pat on the back, right? Are you making the choice for you, or because of somebody else's view or vision of you? And I've had to go through a lot of that. And how do you help people if they're stuck in that moment?
You know, it always comes back to connection. So for me, everything starts with connection. And for me, there are 4 main connections that you have to have as an entrepreneur to live a truly deeply thriving existence in life. So one is a connection to God, spirit, universe, whatever your belief system is. A connection to a higher power. And for the people who are agnostic right now, like, please don't talk about God. No, I'm just that sense of like, I'm not alone is actually what it comes back to. Okay. So connection to God, spirit, universe. Connection to themselves. Like, where am I in this? Connection to a sense of identity that is so rooted in a fundamental truth of like, this is who I am. And knowing that I amness is enough. And then a connection to your significant other, a spouse, a community around you, in a close community that can see you as who you are and who you seek to become, and hold space for that. And then from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it's connection with your customers and understanding your customers often more than your customers even understand themselves. So for me, if a person is off, like literally just before this conversation with you today, I had a conversation with a client. I just got off the call just before I jumped on this, and he was not connected at the beginning of the call. He wasn't connected with the thing that lit him up. He wasn't connected with his truth. He wasn't connected with his power. And in the space of, an hour conversation with him, he's all lined up. And I literally got this guy to roar on the coaching call with me. He was like, are you serious? I'm like, dude, roar. And because what he was doing in that moment was he was roaring and he was moving energy for himself, but he was also sitting in the face of being potentially judged by someone, right? And being able to step out and being like, this is who I am. So that's part of that, is that like I always like connect people back up to their own internal power and connect them up in the other areas that matter too.
So when you're working with somebody and you're looking at they're feeling disconnected, are you usually able to identify which of those 4 connections is most broken and then start there? Or do you have another? I mean, maybe it's a totally different thing. Maybe that was overly simplistic, but are people usually out of alignment more significantly in one than the other?
So to answer your question, yeah, I'm normally scanning for where people are disconnected. If they're displaying disdain for their life, they want things to change. It's like, it's one of the connections, if not all of them.
Right.
And most people are, for the most part, the areas where, like, if they want to make more money, for example, often they are disconnected from themselves. They're disconnected from their own truth. They're disconnected from an identity within themselves that holds them to that higher standard. It makes them go, yeah, I actually am worthy of the $100 million or worthy of the 10 million, like whatever it is, insert goal. So the biggest disconnection is disconnection from themselves. And a lot of people are numbing with social media or politics or online conversations or whatever it is. So one of the things people have to do mostly is disconnect from all the things that are allowing them to live in that lull of me. And then they can reconnect to the things that matter.
Talk to me about the bridge or the importance or the connection between self and self-identity and the importance of understanding future self.
So the way I look at this is, and I've done a lot of research and I've spent a lot of time in the space of assisting people in becoming their future self now and feeling what the future self feels like in the now. Because here's the thing is that if you literally experience your future as outside of you, you are creating you're creating distance and a disconnect between you and you. And a lot of the time, having the future self out there outside of you is part of the problem. And the ability to connect the future self back into the now and see, sense, and feel what that experience feels like, it fundamentally shifts your vibration. It shifts how you show up. It shifts how you write that email. It shifts how you lead that team. I've got a client at the moment who is going from $6 to $12 million in revenue this year. And it's quite the jump, right? It's a jump in identity. It's a jump in team. It's a jump in SOPs. It's a jump in all of that sort of stuff. And actually what came through a couple of weeks ago on a call was her spirit and soul. Like she knows that she can do 100 milli, right? So we're now programming her and operating her to operate with her team and lead her team from the beingness of the future is already here and now, and operating from that standpoint. And what shows up when you do that is it brings the future to you faster. And I want to kind of expose myself a little bit more here by saying I was meditating a couple of months ago. And I heard these words in no uncertain terms. I heard the words, I am the goal. I was like, that made so much sense to me, because the phrase I am the goal is literally collapsing all of the, like, when you become the goal, you are the goal. You vibrate at that level. You are the goal. Like, it's already done. And when you operate from a sense of, look, it's already done, period. I don't need to stress. I don't need to worry. Just what's the next thing that I need to move forward? Cool. Awesome. Blast that email, invite people into your world, whatever it is.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big fan of this stuff anyway, so don't ever feel like you're getting a little too woo. We're good. It's a safe place. You talked and you shared some vulnerabilities there a little bit ago about some mental health, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know an entrepreneur that hasn't been around the block for more than a weekend that hasn't gone through some dark times. Mm-hmm. Where does subconscious, where does healing, where do those things fit in? Mm-hmm. And what are the steps people start taking when they're maybe in those moments, those darker times?
That's amazing. So I think, for me, a lot of my mental health stuff, when I was at my super low, it was all rooted in this perfectionistic ideology of how life should be and how fast I should be able to get results, and you can start to see that I'm using the words should here a lot more. And I learned to be a perfectionist at a very young age to keep the peace at home. I also learned at a very young age to monitor everyone's emotions around me so that I could keep myself safe by being the person that would shift and change and, be the chameleon to make sure that everyone around me, everything was fine. Everything was fine. So if we look at that from a standpoint, like, my subconscious mind was programmed as a child to be a perfectionist, make sure I get top marks, and make sure and I wasn't. I was a dumb kid. Like, I was in the cabbage class, so I was never going to get top marks at high school because I'm dyslexic. Dude, so many things. Like, I was a cabbage, and I used to call myself like, I'm in the cabbage class. which was interesting because when I started to do things at university that really lit me up, like philosophy and psychology and sociology, I started to get A's. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not dumb after all. This is pretty cool. Like, this is amazing. Do things that fire me up, and I tend to get into flow. But to go back to your question, I think a lot of the time what I'm seeing in the entrepreneur game is when a person is not able to achieve something or receive something or break through to a next level, often there's a subconscious block or healing that needs to happen to release the energy, release the belief system, release the identity that is being held so much. Because a lot of the time we're trying to protect an identity in order to not change so that we don't hurt someone or all that sort of stuff. So for me, a lot of this came back to, what do I need to release? What no longer serves me? What identity must I, in some regards, kill, axe, get through, get beyond, release? And I just want to say if there's anyone listening and watching right now, it's really important to have a really positive relationship with healing as well, because the perfectionist in me likes to heal and be done with it. and I had to understand that I needed to have a positive relationship with healing, because I might feel like I'm through and I'm like, oh, a little bit of grief came up again. Wow, didn't even know that was there. And I'm not going to shame myself if something comes up anymore. I'm like, oh, wow, hello, didn't know you were there. Hi, let me release you and let me then expand even more. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think grief comes in waves, and healing too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't heal from the things you've hidden, right? And so as they come forward, then you have to address that piece. And man, it's such important work. I think if anybody has felt one of my favorite sayings from the community is if they felt that call to contribution, right? If you feel that, then you're going to feel multiple stages of your life where you're feeling stuck and you're feeling like you're behind, and so you got to face it and you got to heal if you're going to reach the next step. As much as you choose or want to, what was that personally for you? What did you have to let go of?
I had to let go of the idea that if I was all of myself, I was going to hurt people that I cared for dearly. And, you know, an old belief that I had was, if I shine all of my brightness around the world, it burns people that I love and I care for. And that was a big thing for me for a great many years. And I turned my light down and I dimmed my light. But what I've realized is that in doing so, I actually removed the ability for other people to step into their next level if I was busy managing their experience of life by me not being all of myself. And the specific example I'm using in this regard is my wife. So if I went to like shine and then maybe she got a little bit burnt, I'm like, oh, okay. And then, we're back where we were. So, we have an amazing relationship now where she beams and shines at all of her and I beam and I shine at all of me. And of course we have moments where we're like, a little bit wobbly because we're having a human experience, but I don't turn my light down anymore.
Awesome. To me, none of this stuff matters if we're not living a life that we actually love. So what is something on your personal bucket list that you're going to accomplish in the next 12 months?
Gosh, there are so many things that I could say right now. And you've kind of stumped me. No, you haven't stumped me. I'll take full ownership. I feel stumped because there are so many things, and there are some things that I want to say that I'm not ready to say in terms of my goals out publicly. But I will say this. My wife and I are going to go on 2 incredible, amazing, expansive, experiential holidays together that we've never been to these countries. And that's something that just absolutely lights me up, because we've been to lots and lots and lots of different countries, but we're going to do it in a different way than the next time. So that's on the bucket list.
I love it. So many entrepreneurs struggle to answer the personal side question. They're like, well, I know all my business goals and I know all the things I want to do, but it's amazing. I think it's a reminder to call to balance sometimes, but I love that you at least had two of them, of those personal things. And I'm sure there's tons of goals and things that you're also ready soon to share with the world. But if people want to learn more about you, Liz, where should they go?
LizBenny.com. And I just want to make a little bit of a joke right now. The faster you say Liz Benny, and if you say it 10 times fast, it starts to sound like lesbian. And for those who are not, who actually want me to spell my name, it's Liz or LizBenny.com. That's the best place to find me. And ChatGPT spells my name like lesbian all the time. That's why I'm saying this.
Awesome. I love it. It's so good to have visited with you a little bit more. I am so honored to have been able to see so much of your journey and so much of your growth over this past decade, and wishing you continued success and growth as you take on this next one. And to all my biz ninjas, wherever you're tuning in, watching, or listening, it's your turn to go out and do something.